If you were born between 1990 and 2000, maybe even a little later, there's one game developer that probably had a death grip on your early gaming years. Clover Studio. Nah, I'm kidding. Well, maybe they did. But for today, of course, I'm talking about Bethesda Game Studios. They're known for revitalizing the Fallout series, creating the Elder Scrolls, and being tied to some of gaming's biggest successes and biggest failures. For me, Bethesda started with Skyrim. I still remember the first time I saw it. My cousins were playing at our grandparents' house on the old living room TV. I watched them summon a bound sword and get launched into the sky by a giant outside of Whiterun. And in that moment, I knew my life would never be the same. It's my favorite game of all time, but this video isn't about Skyrim, it's about the studio that made it. The one that's delivered legendary experiences, stumbled into controversies, and continues to shape the RPG genre today. So let's talk about Bethesda. What makes their games great, the problems they face, and where they're headed next. This video isn't going to be a history lesson on Bethesda, though I may do that at some point. We'll see how I'm feeling. Instead, I want to jump straight into what makes Bethesda games so enjoyable to most people who play them. The core elements to any Bethesda game are pretty consistent. Customizable characters that let you play how you want, immersive explorable worlds, intriguing NPCs and followers, memorable factions, and above all else, endless replayability. Now, this is all coming from someone who loves Bethesda games. And for me, and most people, these are the reasons why their games are worth revisiting every single year. With all these strengths, titles like Skyrim, Fallout 4, and even the recent Oblivion Remaster are still holding their own against today's modern AAA games. And credit where it's due, a lot of that is thanks to the modding community. That community wouldn't exist the way it does without Bethesda making it easy on them, and at times even collaborating with them. The solid mechanics Bethesda built have become the foundation for modders, which has created endlessly fun games that stand the test of time. I could spend hours talking about the appeal, the replayability, and the lifespan of Bethesda's catalog. But if you're watching this video, you probably already know most of that. So if Bethesda has all of this going for them, what's the problem? The problem, in my humble, non-expert opinion, is that Bethesda keeps using the same formula, and they keep using it too cautiously. I mentioned earlier that Skyrim was my introduction to RPGs, and it was a fantastic intro. But as I played more RPGs, even more Bethesda RPGs, I realized something as I got older. Skyrim isn't the best RPG. It's still my personal favorite game of all time, but within its genre, I can admit it's not the strongest RPG. And that's okay. The long-lasting success of Skyrim proves plenty of people feel the same way. So what exactly makes the older games feel more successful, more memorable, and arguably better than the new ones, even though they may have a few more flaws? When you compare games like Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas to Fallout 4, or even games like Morrowind and Oblivion to Skyrim, one thing becomes pretty clear. As Bethesda grew their audience, they toned down the RPG elements in their games. Now, this isn't always a bad thing. When you look at the success of Skyrim and Fallout 4, they were massive. They brought in an entirely new wave of fans to Bethesda's worlds, and to RPGs in general. For a lot of people watching, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Skyrim, or Oblivion was probably one of your first open-world RPGs. But these days, there's a lot of debate about how the older games in Bethesda's two biggest franchises were arguably stronger as RPGs. Most people agree that Skyrim and Fallout 4 are great games, but they could have been better RPGs. Take the leveling system and perks. Both Skyrim and Fallout 4 let your character eventually master every skill. That means choices you make early on, your perks, your build, even your playstyle, don't really matter in the long run. By the end of the game, you're going to be able to do everything. In Fallout 3 or Oblivion, sure, you could become powerful, but you were still locked into a specific playstyle. Your choices shaped your character in a more permanent way. Now, an argument can be made for either approach, but it's fair to say that this design shift diluted the RPG mechanics to a certain degree. Couple that with generally weaker factions and the core mechanics of the RPG side of the game take another hit. That's not to say the games or the factions are bad, they're just noticeably more watered down than in the older titles. What they did nail though was immersion and exploration. From the start, both Skyrim and Fallout 4 give you a massive world where you can go anywhere and do anything. And the older games did this too, but Skyrim and Fallout 4, the dungeons felt a lot better and a lot more handcrafted. They took that sense of wonder, of stepping out into a massive open world, and multiplied it. And that's where fans keep on debating what's better for future games, mass appeal or deeper RPG mechanics. For example, even though it was developed by Obsidian, a lot of fans still argue that New Vegas is the best Fallout, and it's my personal favorite Fallout game too. But if I'm being honest, I've sunk way more hours into Fallout 4, mostly because of the sheer amount of content and how much time I've spent building settlements. My point is this: moving forward, the perfect Bethesda game would be one that could successfully combine the two, the gameplay of the newer games and the RPG mechanics of the older ones. I prefer the older RPG mechanics, but the new games absolutely have way more to offer in terms of content and exploration. So the question is, will that continue? Because with the controversial release of Bethesda's newest IP, Starfield, we've seen some of these same issues resurface, and some surprising new ones. So what does that mean for Bethesda's formula moving forward? Now, full disclosure, I'm currently in my first playthrough of Starfield, so I'm not going to go too hard on it, but I will share my thoughts on what I've seen so far. The game does dial the RPG mechanics back up to a certain degree. Your character build and choices seem to matter way more again. I love the abundance of skill checks and dialogue options compared to Fallout 4's base game. It's a step in the right direction, but the exploration doesn't hit the same way for me. The universe feels vast, but empty. You can go anywhere, but for what? Too often you find points of interest with little payoff. No story, no quest, nothing memorable. The beauty of Bethesda's older locations was that they were handcrafted, often hiding small side quests, unmarked adventures, or bits of environmental storytelling. While Starfield has some of that, it's scattered and rare. With the mixed reception the game had, it feels more like the same, a good game that could have been great, and one that missed the mark in a few key areas. And that puts Bethesda in a tough spot. Competition is getting stiffer, and fans have more reason than ever not to settle. Just look at recent hits like Baldur's Gate 3, The Outer Worlds 2, Elden Ring, and Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So where does Bethesda fit in among great titles like this? The success of the Oblivion Remaster shows that they can still carve out a piece of the pie if they do it right. That Shadow Drop worked because it tapped into nostalgia and gave players a polished classic look with modern visuals. And it delivered the same core gameplay that fans love. But now that the hype has cooled off, the conversation has shifted back to silence. The silence that we're getting from Bethesda. We've heard little about the future, especially with their famously long development cycles, and while other studios keep cranking out great hits. I'll admit, if they dropped a New Vegas or Fallout 3 remaster tomorrow, I'd be the first in line, but that doesn't mean I can't see the flaw here. Bethesda is still relying too heavily on past successes to mask the uncertainty about their future. They've already lost some trust with the rocky launch and recovery of Fallout 76 and the mixed reception of Starfield, so that means their best move right now may be to continue rolling out remasters to keep fans engaged until the next major release. On a more positive note though, the Fallout TV show has been a huge success. Season 1 brought so many new and returning fans to Fallout 4 after its release, and now Season 2 gives Bethesda the perfect opportunity to drop one of these remasters alongside it if that's what they choose to do. Will they continue to use that wisely, or will they use it as a way to just funnel more energy and microtransactions into Fallout 76? Bethesda has so many ways that they could make the next few years their most successful ones, but will they actually deliver? That's really the heart of all this. Bethesda isn't just competing with their own past, they're competing with the entire industry. Studios are beginning to take real risks. They're innovating and raising the bar for RPGs in a way we've never seen before. It's not about whether or not Bethesda can make a hit, it's whether they can make a game that truly feels new, while holding on to the magic and the formula that made us love their games in the first place. Bethesda has been a cornerstone of gaming for decades, and for so many of us, their worlds were our first real step into RPGs. Whether it was wandering into the wasteland of Fallout 3 for the first time, joining the Dark Brotherhood in Oblivion, or staring up at the mountains of Skyrim, their games mean a lot to so many of us, and that's why their future matters so much. The games aren't just pixels on a screen, they're memories, milestones, and in some ways, the reason a lot of us fell in love with gaming in the first place. But the industry, like I said, has changed. The bar is being raised, and it's up to Bethesda to meet the bar or even raise it themselves. If they want to stay at the top, they need to prove that they can innovate again, not just continue to remaster their past successes. I'll always love these games, flaws and all, and I'll be there day one when Elder Scrolls 6 finally drops. But I hope, for me and for you, and anyone else that loves Bethesda games, that they remember what made them special in the first place when they're developing their next few. So what do you think? Has Bethesda lost its magic, or do they still have another golden age ahead of them? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on all of this. As always though, thank you so much for watching. I'm Late Night Shrimp. I'm your host, and I'll see you in the future.